step right up and get your tickets for another moment in gaming history. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome to the channel. This is a segment that some of you may know as Moments in Gaming History. This is where I pick out various different moments across history that I think are key moments to the medium of video games. And today is no exception. Today we're going to talk about the humble cartridge. I know it's one of those things that most of us take for granted. We just either pop it into the system, or we have a bunch of them laying around the house because we're collectors. We love them, we use them all the time, but nobody ever really thinks about where they came from, why they work the way they work, or how things worked before them. Because believe it or not, there was a time where in video games development that there were no such thing as cartridges. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the time before cartridges, when cartridges came about, and a little bit about what I think they did for the creativity and expanding of the medium. So stick around. This one should be pretty fun. It may be hard to believe, but there was a time not that long ago, well, not that long ago for me, when video games came on physical media. I know, it's shocking. You would have to get up every time you wanted to change games. Turn off the system, pull the game out, put a new one in. I know, this is an alien concept given the direction that gaming has gone, but this was actually a huge step. An evolution, one might say. A moment in gaming history? You see, when video games were first made available on consoles, they were mostly built into the unit, like on, say, the brown box. In this system, you would toggle various switches on the unit itself in order to change games. All the games were pretty much pre-wired into the main unit itself. This was a great first step, but it limited the console to just what was built on it and didn't really allow for any new program to be loaded. This concept eventually evolved with the brown box's move from a prototype to a more production product known as the Magnavox Odyssey. This was released in 1972. The Odyssey took the idea of the pre-programmed, pre-wired games and adjusted it to what's known as a game card. These cards essentially did a similar thing to the switches on the brown box, but instead of flipping switches, you just inserted the next card into the system. This served the same function as rewiring the system, essentially reprogramming it to play a new game. This was far more user-friendly than the original idea that Ralph Baer fleshed out with the original design. The idea was a hit, and the Odyssey sold pretty well, selling around 65,000 units and making over $310,000 during its run as a home console. Enter the Fairchild Channel F, developed in large part by Jerry Lawson. This was the next evolution of consoles based off a microprocessor. This came with multiple advantages, the main one being that it can now read a ROM, so no longer would you need to slide a card in that would reprogram the machine. Now you could just insert a cartridge. This allowed developers to be not as tied to just what they could do on the physical card or how to rewire the hardware. They can now write full-on programs that would work within space limitation of the ROM and what the microprocessors were capable of. How this worked was by the invention of the ROM cartridge. This was an invention primarily pioneered by Wallace Kirshner and Lawrence Haskell under the name Project Raven. This was a project to store a program on a ROM media that would use pin connectors to transfer the data from that medium to the microprocessor. It had two issues. One was ROM memory. This was expensive, like penny a bit expensive. Now, to give you the scope of this, 8 bits are in a byte, 1024 bytes are in a kilobyte, and 1024 kilobytes are in a meg. 1024 megabytes are in a gigabyte, and 1024 gigabytes are in a terabyte. This stupid number is the number of bits. Now divide that by 100, since 100 pennies would make $1, and $1 in 1975 is $5.43 today. And 1 terabyte would cost you this stupid number today. Keep in mind this is before we get to issue 2. The second issue was the connectors. The pins were notoriously flimsy and prone to break. They needed a solution that would allow them to put the cartridge in and out without breaking the connectors. So they had to build a robust connector for the ROM so that it could take the constant abuse of being plugged in and out without breaking down. The result was a ROM card that looked much like an 8-track tape at the time, when this was intentional. They wanted to look like something familiar to the consumer at the time. It also allowed them to put one larger game or multiple games in. and paved the way for consoles like the Atari, NES, Genesis, all the way up to the Switch. So there you go. That's the cartridge, where it kind of came from, and kind of what it's allowed us to do. I mean, when you think about it, a lot of what's driven games forward has been the amount of memory, the graphics, the ability to be able to tell a story and to design new worlds. All this kind of got catalyzed and launched forward by the advent of the cartridge. It allowed people's imagination to expand more, allowed developers to tell more stories, to make larger worlds, to make more things to engage you, the player, into the medium. Had we not really had cartridges, we might still be playing with like 3 little blips on the screen like you were with Odyssey, or the medium might have died out entirely. It was a key component of, I think, of what made gaming so great as what it is today. It's just the cartridge. And the fact that many of you that come to my channel hold cartridges in such high esteem kind of seems a no-brainer that it's a key moment in gaming history. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think this is a key moment? Do you think there's something else? Do you think this one was kind of dumb? Sound off in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, happy gaming.